Hi, good evening once again, fellow citizen. Good evening. Welcome to another edition of Social Digest, your thoughts-provoking show. Brought to you by CORE, Congress of Reform in Ethics, pragmatically confronting problems and challenges. Presented by your one and only senior citizen, Godwin Ajabi. What are we digesting today, folks? An interesting topic that has been in the public domain for ages, for years, folks. Guess what it is? Cleanliness, folks. This is what we're digesting today. Cleanliness. And there's a saying that cleanliness is next to godliness. Cleanliness is next to godliness. In other words, cleanliness is next to moral conductness, to moral uprightness. That's what it means. Cleanliness is next to godliness. In other words, cleanliness is next to moral uprightness, moral conductness. Most of the times, folks, when we want somebody to behave, or morally conduct he or herself, we assume using filthy and unpleasant words will do the magic, isn't it? Most of the time. Yeah, I'll show him. I'm going to put him in line. And we use all kind of filthy, words and unpleasant words. And we assume that will put that person in line, will get the person to do the right thing. And the more we use those unclean words, what happens? The more they perverse. And you know this. The more we use those unclean words, the more they perverse, the more they do the wrong things. And that is nature. Even children. When we want children to do the right thing, and in most cases, shouting and screaming on them and using all kind of filthy words doesn't stop them. They still do it. But when you go down and you talk to them with respect, use clean words to address them, you see that they behave. Alright? Cleanliness, they say, is next to moral conductness. Next to moral uprightness. I don't know how, folks. I don't know how, whether it's a magic, I don't know how, but for some reason, cleanliness appeals to our goodness. It does. Cleanliness appeals to our goodness. I don't know how it does. I don't know what magic is it. But for some reason, it appeals to our goodness and makes us behave. It makes us behave. Folks, what does it mean to be clean? What does it really mean to be clean? Alright? What does it mean to be clean? Let us look at some of the words and adjectives that describe cleanliness. Let's look at some of the words and adjectives that describe what? Cleanliness. The first one is not dirty. Not dirty. Meaning having a clean appearance or clean surrounding. This, for some reason, resonates, folks, resonates with our goodness and makes us behave. Having a clean surrounding and clean appearance, for some reason, resonates, all right, resonates with our goodness and makes us behave. And let me tell you a little story. This is way back when I was actually growing up. You know, when I was growing up, we have a field in which we normally go and play ball. You know, and all the neighborhoods boys, we have a particular field we used to play. We play football and we play. When our parents want us, they know they can definitely find us there. And there's this particular place we used to pee. Folks, there's this particular place we used to pee, and it has to be the back of a man we used to call Uncle Ebo. Have to be back of his house. And for some reason, we used to pee there. For some reason, that is where we used to be. I mean, the field is that large. But for some reason, that is a place we all used to pee. Anybody wants to pee, they go there. And anytime we go and pee there, Uncle Ebo will come out. Hey, Kosia, Shirley TV. Then we use all kind of filter walls, and then and then we run away. And the next time we got there and we were about to pee, we realized that it was boldly written. Folks, boldly written. Only dogs urinate here. Boldly. Only dogs urinate here. And guess what? For some reason, we don't know how we came out with this idea. One of us started barking. And this person started barking, and then you see us peeing at the same time barking. It was just fun. And Uncle Ebo will still chase us, and then we'll run away. The next time we actually showed up there, it was written, if you pee here, you'll be fined 50. If you pee here, you'll be fined 50 Ghana cedi. And in fact, for some reason, we do not understand the word fine. So, I mean, one of us said, he said, uju so ha, or why a fine of 50 Ghana cedi. That's what one of us said, And then later we saw a gentleman pass on, and then we asked him, what does this mean? What does this 550 Ghana? He says, and he told us, he said, if we urinate here, we will have to pay 50 Ghana cedi. And then we said, oh, we all started laughing. We laughed and laughed and laughed, and guess what? One person will have to stand there and then pee, and then when he's peeing, the other person will come and say, Hey, I've arrested the macho, Imobu, pay 50 Ghana cedi. And then whatever money in your pocket, you will give it to him. And then he will also go back and then stand there and start peeing. And then this person will come, hey, macho, Imobu, 50 Ghana. And then he will give back your money to you. So we were doing this. And then Uncle Ebo will still chase us, and then we'll run away. The next time we showed up the place, we realized that the whole place was clean. The whole place was actually cleared. All the fields there were actually cleared. And it was totally clean. It was even cemented. And then some pot of flowers was actually placed there. And guess what, folks? That very moment, on that day, no one peed there. We all look at what happened at the back of Uncle Bo's house. with admiration. And when we all say, hey, I have for PFA4A, none of us thought of pain. Folks, none of us thought of pain. Alright? And as I said earlier on, cleanliness sometimes resonates with our moral conductness. It makes us behave. Resonates with our moral conductness. So therefore, to get people to do the right thing, it's not by using filthy words. And these cleanliness have been in our public domain for a very long time. And very, very long time. And government upon government will find it difficult to deal with this. And the ridiculous aspect of it, folks, for people blaming all of us. And you find people that we need to change our way. We need to change our thought concerning cleanliness. We need to change our thought. Ghanaians must stop littering and blah blah. Folks, and that is ridiculous. Littering is punishable by law, just as stealing. Okay? It is punishable by law, just as what? Stealing. And that it is not all Ghanaians that litter. We are 25 million plus people. If all Ghanaians litter in this country will be a mess, will be a refuse dump. The whole country will be a refuse dump. Okay, and this idea of unless we all change our thoughts, we all do not litter in order to get the place clean is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. Folks, it is ridiculous. And it's totally misdirection. It is of the reason why we don't solve problems when it comes to this cleanliness. It is of the reason why we don't solve problems. Okay? It's of this reason we don't solve, and we will never solve problem when we blame every Ghanaian for littering. We will never solve it. It's totally misdirection. We will never solve this problem when we blame every Ghanaian for littering. Of course, I've heard some silly, comments that it is all our collective responsibility. Collective responsibility. Of course, it is our collective responsibility. But we have demarcations of responsibilities. Folks, we have demarcations of responsibilities in this country. There are departments that are mandated to ensure that we have a clean environment. There are departments that are mandated to ensure that we have what? Clean an environment. And you see, let me explain this to you. We have department to ensure, okay, that things are done well in this country. And the reason we have such department, it is not because people will do the right thing. It is not because people will do the right thing. It is because people will do the wrong thing. Why do we have police department? It is not because people will do the right thing, it's because people will do the wrong thing. Why do we have departments that are mandated to ensure that we have clean environment? The metropolitan assemblies. It is not because people will do the right thing, it is because people will do the wrong thing. Why do we have department that ensures that we should build right? It is not because people will do the right thing, it is because people will do the wrong thing. Therefore, when you find out that a particular habit, a particular misdemeanor, a particular wrongdoing has become the order of the day, what it tells us is that those departments we put in place to check, to ensure that the right things are done, are not done. They are not doing their job. It's as simple as that. So therefore, when we find out that littering has become the order of the day, when we find out that littering has become the order of the day, what it tells us that departments mandated to ensure that such misdemeanor is checked, those departments have gone to sleep. If we find out that people are building haphazardly in a community, what it should tell us that department put in place to ensure that people build right have gone to sleep. Therefore, what we need to do as citizens is to come up with a one voice to push the department to be proactive. That's all. And not to be blaming us all. And Ghanaians must change our way of littering. And Ghanaians must change our way of littering. No. We will never solve problem with this particular attitude. We will never solve problems with this particular attitude. And we have a clean surrounding before, we have a clean environment before. In the era of town council, this is an area in which the department that are mandated to ensure that the surroundings are clean live up to expectation. And we have a very clean surrounding. I always used to say that in those areas we don't have what we call gutters. Most of our drainage are clean. You will see fresh water flowing through it. It is simple. It's a collective responsibility. Their responsibility is to ensure that everybody cleans his or her yard. And they live up to expectation and the environment was clean. Simple. Demarcations of responsibility. Okay? Fourth, if my responsibility or your responsibility is to ensure that I do a particular job, if the job is not done, who is to be blamed? If your responsibility or my responsibility is to ensure that you do a particular job, if that job is not done, who is to be blamed? It's me, not you. So this idea of Ghanaians must change their way and we are too, who told you Ghanaians are filthy? Why don't we say the same thing when a Ghanaian go and steal, folks? Why don't we say the same thing? Those who are stealing, aren't they Ghanaians? I'm asking. Most of the stealing going on, aren't they Ghanaians? Why don't we say Ghanaians should change their way of thought concerning stealing? Yet we call on departments that are mandated to ensure that such misdemeanors are arrested. And we come out with one voice and call on the police and they live up to expectation. Why is it that when individuals are littering, when individuals are doing what is wrong in our society, we tend to blame Ghanaians? This is purely misdirection, and we shall never solve problem, and we've never solved problem with it. All of us do not get a job done. Jobs are done when responsibility are designated, and with designated bodies to ensure that things are done right in our society. And when things are not done, what is expected of us as citizens, we need to come up with one voice and talk and push them to do the right thing, not coming out and blaming ourselves. Meanwhile, we are paying them for that particular job, not coming out and blaming ourselves that we need to change our attitude. It is silly and it's misdirection, and we shall never solve problem with this particular trajectory. We need to change this. We need to change this, folks. And when we are clean, when our environment tends to be clean, it will resonate to our goodness, and we will behave. What also does it mean to be clean? It means not offensive, folks. Not offensive. Not offensive. And we've been experiencing this in our daily discourse. You know, in a situation in which you realize that somebody is that offensive. Something happened. Perhaps you did something wrong, and the person is that offensive. Blah, 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 blah. Started using all offensive words on you. You realize that anytime we tend not to be offensive, not to be, that means to be clean, the person behave. You can attest to this in your interaction with other humans or other people. Anytime somebody tends to be that offensive, misbehaving towards you, and you turn up not to be offensive. In other words, you turn up to be clean, the person behave. But when you also tend to be offensive, then the two of you, you know, just flame up. All right. So cleanliness always, appeals to the good side of us. It always appeals to the good side of us. What does it also mean to be clean? Folks, fairness. Fairness, folks. Fairness. Fairness. It means fairness, acceptable and appropriate in a particular situation, or treating everyone equal and according to the rules or laws. That is what it means by fairness. Meaning acceptable and appropriate in a particular situation, or treating everyone equally according to the rules or laws, equitably. Folks, that is what means to be clean. And this appeals to our moral uprightness. We behave. I am number one critic of our system of governance, folks. I am, as a senior citizen. Anybody who knows me, I'm number one critic of our system of governance, mainly because we have an unclean and unfair system of governance. We have an unfair system of governance. And no matter how much we chastise, no matter how much we chastise, we criticize, folks, the parties in power for corruption, they will still perverse. Folks, we are talking of cleanliness is next to godliness. They will still perverse. What does it mean to be clean? Fairness. Fairness means what? Clean, acceptable, and appropriate in a particular situation, or treating everyone equally according to the rules or laws, equitably. Folks, and the reason why we have most of our public officials misbehaving, it is because we have a very unclean system of governance. And no matter how much we chastise and we criticize them, they will still perverse. And we've been doing this for decades. There is the need for some hygiene in our politics, in our system of governance. It is not hygienic. It's not clean. Folks, hence the misbehavior of our public officials. Hence the corruption will be the same, and they will still perverse. You see? Folks, a system, listen to this, a system that jails one person, right? A system that jails, that punishes one person, a person for 20 years for stealing a goat. Folks, for stealing a goat, denying a family, just a family, of their supper or their dinner, and give another person, in fact, promote another person for stealing billions, denying a whole community of their livelihood, such a system is unclean. Such a system is unclean. So therefore, if you wonder why they misbehave, it's because we have an unclean system of governance, an unfair system of governance. And you know this. You know this. A system that jails, that punishes somebody for stealing a goat and goes in for 20 years, denying just a small family, a single family, of their dinner or supper, and promotes others for stealing billions, denying a whole community of their livelihood, is very, very, very unclean, and shall always begot corruption. Shall always begot corruption. You see, Proverb to all Christians, we are all Christians in here. Proverb 25 verse 5 said, and I quote, "Remove wicked officials from the king's presence, and his throne will be established through righteousness." End of quote. Remove wicked official from the king's presence, and the king's throne will be established through righteousness. So tackling corruption, Christians tackling corruption, is not going to church and be praying and be speaking in tongues. It's by ensuring that we have a system to remove wicked officials from the king's presence. This is what Proverbs is telling us. Proverbs 25 verse 5. And when we talk of wicked, we are not talking of putting a knife in somebody's throat and cut it, or stabbing somebody. No, that is not wickedness. When we are talking of wicked, it simply means what? Unfair treatment. That's all. That is what wickedness is. Unfair treatment. So when the Bible says, remove wicked officials from the king's presence, and his throne will be established through righteousness. What all we need to do is to ensure that there's some hygiene, to borrow PLO's words. There's some hygiene until we clean up our governance system, folks. Until we clean up our governance system, we shall not be able to curb the corrupt practices that afflict our way of life. We shall not be able to do that until we shall not be able to do that. Folks, we shall not be able to do that. And guess what? We always talk of corruption. We always talk of mediocrity. We always talk of accountability. Tell me, how then do you want somebody to be accountable when we entrust our resources to the people, the government, all right? And it is such that the system is such that they are the same people who approve to themselves. They are the same people who investigate themselves. They are the same people who what? Report to themselves, and the same people who prosecute themselves. With such a framework, with such a system of governance, how do you expect the person to be accountable? How do you expect the person not to corrupt? How then do we expect the person to rise above mediocrity? How then do we expect the person to rise above mediocrity? Folks, this is a system we have. Unless number one, Parliament goes independent, and then even the police system goes independent, to ensure that we have some hygiene in our governance system. We shall not be able to curb the corrupt practices that afflict our way of life. I may like to end. Folks, let me conclude with this quote. Let me conclude with this quote. And as funny as it is, folks, as funny as this quote is, and it's by our one and only Bukum Banko. You may not like him. A man can never be too careful until he puts on a white shirt. A man can never be too careful until he puts on a white shirt. Our public officials will not stop the corrupt behavior. We chastise them off until we ensure that our system of governance is clean, is fair, and we ensure that there is some hygiene in our system of governance. A man can never be too careful until he puts on a white shirt. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for listening. Kindly watch out for more videos by call, alright, on Social Digest. Thank you very much for listening.